chalk that up to Peter Hotez warned us about that. Next slide, please. Problem number 3. The vaccine may cause infertility. What?
Yep.
It's not leprosy, but infertility. How does that go? I found this little news piece when I was looking at it today. Take a look at this brilliant investigation. These are the types of geniuses I used to work with, but at least they're bringing up the topic. Roll it.
A Facebook post quickly spreading online claims a top Pfizer researcher is raising concerns about a potential COVID-19 vaccine. Bob Segal with our verified team looked into the claim that the vaccine could impact fertility.
Yes, this is the question that's been flooding our Verify inbox. Does the COVID-19 vaccine cause a sterilization in women? And this is why so many people have been asking that question. It's a Facebook post that's widely circulating right now claiming a head researcher for vaccine manufacturer Pfizer is warning that the company's new COVID vaccine would cause sterilization in women. Here's what we know about that social media post. Michael Yaden did work for Pfizer until 2011 in the company's Allergy and Respiratory Research Unit. That's according to the British doctor's LinkedIn profile. And Yaden, along with a German doctor, did send a letter to the European Medicines Agency asking the EMA to stop clinical trials of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. They said the vaccine might block a protein that's important in the formation of a placenta. And the doctors claim that could possibly result in vaccinated women essentially becoming infertile. While the social media post implies the vaccine will cause infertility, that's not what the doctors actually said. Their petition raises questions, using phrases like, if the vaccine works a certain way, it could lead to infertility. Is that a real possibility? Well, 13 News reached out directly to Pfizer for answers. The company response, not exactly helpful, simply stating, we are not commenting on it. Last month in a press release, Pfizer did say its COVID-19 vaccine studies have so far not reported any serious safety concerns. Safety regulators in Europe just completed their safety review and they approved the vaccine. We also want to point out the social media site that circulated the doctor's claims about infertility. It's a blog called Health and Money News. And the news on that site, it's full of conspiracy theories about COVID-19, like the coronavirus is not real and wearing masks causes irreversible brain damage. And the two doctors raising concerns about the Pfizer vaccine, both of them have a history of peddling false information about COVID. Dr. Yaden claimed 3 months ago that the pandemic is effectively over, which it's not. And earlier this year, Dr. Wodard posted a video claiming the virus is no more harmful than the seasonal flu, which is also untrue. So, does Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine cause sterilization in women? We can verify, so far there is no evidence, no study, and no reports to support that claim. At the same time, it is fair to point out the vaccine is so new, there are no long-term studies to show the long-term impact on fertility. And of course, Pfizer is not commenting on that.
Well, our verified team is dedicated to fighting.
I mean, it's absolutely hysterical if it wasn't so incredibly terrifying.
Right.
Did you hear how that entire investigation went? Right? All of you are writing into our show and you're really worried about this infertility issue, and we looked up the scientist, and as it turns out, he really was a vice president at Pfizer. He really was a top scientist for them for years and years and years, well respected, won awards. And then when we reached out to Pfizer themselves, they said, we're not going to comment on this. Not the answer we really wanted to hear, but the one they gave us. But then we felt really good that we can debunk this because the only people that would play the video from these world-renowned scientists, they do other conspiracy theory videos, therefore we shouldn't take this one seriously. And so, bonk, false. False. How about at best, inconclusive? Right? Have we lost like the English language? False means you actually proved something, right?
Yeah.
You didn't prove anything except that you're a bunch of chuckleheads that can't do their job. You obviously didn't interview either of the scientists. You didn't talk to anybody that mattered. And the one group that really matters, the one making it, give you a terrifying statement like, we're not even going to comment on that. Really? Why didn't you just say that's false, there's no way our product does that?
Thank you.
I know that might get in the way of their liability protection that every government's giving them right now.
Right.
I don't know how that works. This is super distressing, and these are very, very big, important scientists. Michael Yeadon has had brilliant reports coming out, and so has Wolfgang Godard. Obviously, they're conspiracy theorists because they believe this was really only about as bad as the flu. And then the lockdowns actually made things worse. What? Are you kidding me? I wore my mask. I watched that disease virtually disappear out of the United States of America once I did. I don't know what those guys are talking about. You guys want to geek out for a second because this is what I do. This infertility issue is really, really fascinating. And I know that's weird. And when I was a producer on the Doctor's television show, I never would have spoken like that. But if you spend a year in a basement with someone like Dr. Andy Wakefield or Judy Mikovits, and they sit there, and when they start, I mean, just get a couple of glasses of wine to this woman and let her start talking about disease. I mean, it's like the Beach Boys and Fabio met. The sun is setting. What this disease can do, I mean, you have no idea. They're like passionate about it. It's weird. Well, let's get passionate about some of the science. I'll have to read a lot of this because I don't know that you can see that. But just because they want to say that only Michael Yeadon and only Wolfgang Godard probably dropped a bunch of mushrooms or something and lost their minds and put out a video they wish they could take back, there's actually a lot of science around what they're talking about. Slide 1, how the placenta evolved from an ancient, I'm covering up my own headline, virus, I think it is. So the placenta has to be the most incredible gatekeeper. It has to let oxygen and nutrients get to the baby, and it has to let carbon dioxide and waste get out. For example, medicines can get through, protective antibodies can get through, but if the mother and baby ever actually touched, or if any blood got through, the mother's immune system would immediately kill the baby. The syncytiotrophoblast is the outermost layer of the placenta, the very outside layer of the placenta, the part that is pressed against the uterus. It's literally a layer of cells that have fused together, forming a wall. This is where the magic happens, Coulihan said. Not Yeadon, not Godard, Coulihan said. This wall of cells keeps mom and baby working in harmony and not killing each other. There's no other structure like this anywhere else in the body. When evolutionary biologists like Chung mapped the genomes of these cells, they found that the protein that allowed these cells to fuse into a wall called syncytin didn't look like it came from human DNA. It looked more like HIV. According to Chung, this protein actually came from an ancient retrovirus, the most famous of which is HIV. Super interesting too. I mean, I don't know what the connection is, but when we think about all the discussions about an HIV insert that was randomly in this virus, but it makes a lot of people like Judy suspicious that it happened in nature. Well, let's not get off track. This DNA around the outside of the placenta is much less like a human and much more like a retrovirus. Viruses such as HIV have been infecting vertebrates for probably a couple 100 million years, according to Chung. So according to evolutionary biologists, once upon a time, some retrovirus infected an egg-laying vertebrate. And by chance, that virus settled into the animal's egg cells, and it just so happened that that particular infected egg made a nice sperm and got fertilized. The baby that was hatched, whatever kind of proto-mammal it was, now had copies of that virus DNA in all the cells. That was the beginning of a mammal. You look at science. Viruses and bacteria have been stressing all of the species on this planet to evolve. A lot of what makes human beings, human beings. And again, I'm not going to get into it, but my concept of religion doesn't disappear around this, but if you want to have that conversation, let's do it over a drink later. But the point being, the science of evolution. The placenta develops, and what makes a mammal probably happened because of an interaction with a virus. So now you've got this viral DNA, which is the most important part that makes women who they are and makes mammals what they are. And this is an article. Look at this in this article. The remarkable homology recorded between SARS-CoV-2 spike protein and HERW-derived protein syncytin. You see, we're making a vaccine that has the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2, not the entire virus, which already means it's going to be a lame vaccine. I think of it like there's 29, I think, is it 29 proteins, Judy, something like that, on SARS-CoV-2. And basically we're saying we just need to fight the one protein. It's like going to a martial arts class and the guy has one move. Because he'll just do this and he can beat anybody there is. Forget about Jackie Chan's got 29 different moves coming at you like I was told this one protein will get me there. Just stick with the one protein, trust me, it works every time. But the problem with this one protein is that it looks almost identical to the DNA that is wrapped around the placenta. Indeed, alignment of the endogenous element SYN1 found on human chromosome 7, or SYN2 found in chromosome 6, or HERV-K expressed from chromosome 6, all show a number of sequence motifs with significant similarity to nCoV-219 spike protein. Guys ready for this? Can we see the next slide? Oh man. There's any way you can slide that up? Well, let's just look at this section. So up here, you have the Wuhan peptide, and down here, this is the SARS-CoV-2. These are the DNA codes. Look how similar. They almost stack on top of each other perfectly. There's just a few tiny little parts of the code that make them different. Do you understand that when we talk about autoimmune disease being caused by vaccines, the issue is that there's a cell mirroring, or sometimes whatever we're making the antibody towards looks so similar, maybe not to my exact DNA code, but something inside of you. Maybe it's the myelin sheath wrapped around your muscles or your nerves. And that vaccine taught antibodies to attack what was supposed to be the illness, but it looks so much like that myelin sheath that you're going to have multiple sclerosis. Yep. You might have cancer. You might have all these issues. And what Wolfgang Vladar, Michael Yeadon, all the scientists are looking at this and saying, dude, that is more similar than a lot of the autoimmune diseases we already see. Yep. This is so similar, we are sure. Maybe not every woman, but definitely a lot of women are never going to be able to develop a placenta because the moment they do, if they've had this vaccine, they've trained the antibodies to attack anything that looks like that. Again, is this fact? No. It's scientific hypothesis, theory, based in actual provable science. So why do you do a safety trial at all? This has always been my question. With every New York Times reporter that asked me, Washington Post, they're all over me. You're that anti-vaccine guy. You're spreading misinformation. I'm like, I'm sorry. When did I go to bed and wake up in a world where we no longer believe that safety trials are necessary for pharmaceutical products? When did that happen? New York Times no longer believes in safety trials?
Yeah, no.
This is a product that has never been injected into a human being ever.
Yep.
And the people that make these products, like Michael Yeadon, are coming forward. It's really hard to come out against the product you based your entire career on. Can we all accept that?
Yes.
It takes a special kind of person. Yep. There's a reason it's not 100 Michael Yeadons or 100 Andy Wakefields or 100 Judy Mikovitses.
No way.
It takes a special kind of balls, doesn't it, Judy?
Yeah.
It does. And let's go to the EUA. What is